Released on May 15th, 2009, after a 5-year break, Relapse is one of Eminem's most underrated albums and a hidden gem of the late 2000s. With Dr. Dre deeply involved in the production, Relapse showcases Eminem's undeniable talent and cutting-edge skills, proving he can out-rap almost anyone.
Yes, it can.
But because of its dark and disturbing content and its bizarre accents, this project doesn't get the recognition it deserves, not even from Eminem himself.
Relapse is something that I looked at in a couple of years, went back to and cringed at. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, I didn't even realize I was doing that many accents. I just started, for whatever reason,
The path to Relapse was anything but smooth. After dropping Encore in 2004, a bridge between the rap rock mastery of The Eminem Show and the greatest hits compilation, Curtain Call, Eminem faced a turbulent few years before returning to form. While Encore was commercially successful, it received mixed reviews compared to his earlier works. Critics and fans noted that the album's quality wasn't up to par with his previous releases. During the time leading up to and following Encore, Eminem struggled heavily with drug addiction, particularly to prescription medications like Vicodin and Ambien.
Sleeping pills like Valium, Ambien, stuff like that, but also, Vicodin, basically whatever I could get my hands on and anything that I felt like could make me fall asleep.
His substance abuse issues began to impact his personal life and career, making it difficult for him to focus on music and maintain his usual perfectionist standard of work.
I was in no space to record anything with anybody, you know what I mean?
Eminem also faced personal tragedies during this time, including the death of his best friend and fellow rapper Proof in 2006. Proof's death deeply affected Eminem, contributing to his withdrawal from the public eye and exacerbating his struggles with addiction.
I was real moody, real kind of self-loathing, kind of like, everything, woe is me. And I think I just went into this really dark place, and I just couldn't, it was hard for me to pull myself out of,
This fatal combination of his creative dissatisfaction, personal losses, and escalating drug problems led Eminem to realize that he needed to take a step back from his career and focus on his health.
And basically, at that point in time, I don't think I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I was going through a pretty serious drug addiction at the time. My best friend passed away. There was a lot of things that were going on, and I think at that time my world was kind of just spiraling, I wasn't sure exactly where I was going with my career, but basically that's why I needed to just take a break. You know what I mean? I had to. I think I went 7 or 8 years straight without taking a break at all, and I was missing a lot of my kids growing up and, a lot of things like that, so I just wanted to chill out for a minute.
He entered rehab and spent several years working on his sobriety and mental health. For a moment, it even seemed like he was maybe retired for good. But then, rumors of Eminem's comeback started swirling when an early version of Crack a Bottle leaked in late 2008, sparking confusion about whether it was a 50 Cent track or a surprise Eminem single. 2 months later, We Made You marked a shift, following a classic Eminem pattern seen on all his solo albums. The formula is familiar. An early single, like My Name Is, or The Real Slim Shady, or Without Me, etc., is catchy and offbeat. While the follow-up single, like Role Model or The Way I Am, Cleaning Out My Closet, and so on, is more serious and dramatic. This time, however, this was the biggest fake out yet. We Made You was super fun, and Eminem tried to revive the rebellious energy of 2002. However, this single was used to promote an album that in reality was much more sinister and disturbing.
There's some celebrity bashing in it. I want to say It's not necessarily intentional bashing. It's not necessarily taking deliberate shots at people. Yes, it is. What the f am I talking about?
A song that felt a bit dated even when it dropped. We Made You is miles away from classics like My Name Is and The Real Slim Shady. Yet, like much of Relapse, it has aged surprisingly well. It's stupid, goofy, and random, but there's an oblivious commitment to it that makes it incredibly fun to listen to even today. On 3 a.m., Eminem was still using a variation of his encore flow, but with a darker, more sinister twist. This wasn't just a troublemaker dodging the fun police. He was creating a full-blown serial killer-themed album. And while this extreme direction might not have been what fans expected after such a long hiatus, Relapse delivered something even more remarkable: the best technical rapping of Eminem's career.
I think if I do something, for me personally, if I do something twice on a record, like the same flow, I'm gonna recognize it and I'm gonna go, oh, that's the flow from, you know, such and such record or whatever. So I try to make it a little different. And
except for the album's final single, Beautiful, Relapse steers away from the deep, personal introspection of Eminem's earlier work. Instead, it's narrated entirely through the eyes of this twisted character he created. Beautiful also stands out as the only track M produced himself, continuing the introspective rock-influenced path he started with Sing for the Moment. Most of the rest of the album is filled with wild stories of revenge, drugs, and murder, which can be a tough listen for newcomers. But for fans who grew up with tracks like Kim and 97 Bonnie and Clyde, this was nothing new. Unlike his infamous Slim Shady songs, though, Relapse tracks like Hello and Same Song and Dance leaned more into fantasy than cathartic violence. Stay Wide Awake is a masterclass in flow, timing, and intricate rhyming, delivering relentless energy that demands your attention. The album's production is, simply put, flawless. In an unlikely twist of fate, Relapse ended up being Eminem and Dr. Dre's magnum opus, a reminder of the duo's creative legacy in its purest form. M rapping over a non-stop slew of Dr. Dre's darkest production in decades. Even the mischievous Old Time's Sake has come to gain a special significance, carrying the DNA of bygone classics like the Eminem Show's antagonistic Business. At the time, however, Old Time's Sake was dismissed by many, as M's accent-laden lyrics broke the brooding immersion once cultivated on Forgot About Dre and Say What You Say. Yet today, the track conjures instant nostalgia, especially when viewed through a historian's lens. Though I Need a Doctor and Medicine Man do exist, the signature Eminem and Dr. Dre sound that once cemented them as hip-hop's dynamic duo was likely laid to rest in 2009. Although some might argue its spirit has been resurrected on the death of Slim Shady. But let's keep talking about the production for a moment. Unlike Recovery, where the lyrics often seem to be chasing the beat, or the Marshall Mathers LP2, which dabbled in old-school rock-influenced hip-hop, Relapse saw Dre's beats perfectly aligning with what Eminem was trying to convey.
you know, with each beat, I feel like sounds different and makes me rhyme different, you know, the way Dre put everything together. So
this synergy between production and lyrics is crucial for a successful record, and the dark, menacing vibe of Relapse left a lasting impact thanks to these well-crafted instrumentals. Dr. Dre's production on Busta Rhymes' Legend of the Fall Off hinted at the dark direction he would take on Relapse, blending droning pianos with horrorcore elements. Dre and his team masterfully brought the album's serial killer vibe to life, pushing Eminem's brutal lyrics to disturbing new levels. While Eminem had always embraced violent content, his earlier work was grounded by the cartoonish rage of Slim Shady. But here he introduced a new persona entirely. often mistaken for good old Slim. This character was more like a blend of Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy, obsessed with dismemberment, R-word, cannibalism, incest, and necrophilia. Then there was the voices. Eminem's accents on Relapse are one of the album's most striking elements and are key to the character he was embodying. While he's no stranger to crafting personas for his songs, this time he took it to a whole new level, diving deeper into the dark side than ever before. Relapse managed to tie its tracks together, not perfectly, but in a way that far surpassed the efforts of Recovery and the Marshall Mathers LP2, from seamlessly dragging sounds from one track to the next, like bagpipes from Baghdad fading into Hello, to using quick effective skits, Tanya leading into Same Song and Dance. Relapse had a solid storyline and effortless consistency that the Marshall Mathers LP2 lacked. Much of the credit for this seamless flow goes to Dr. Dre, who likely orchestrated how well Relapse came together as a cohesive project. For that reason, Relapse is a concept album. M once explained his fascination with serial killers to the New York Times, revealing that he binge-watched several on-topic documentaries during his initial writing sessions. These sessions coincided with his journey to sobriety, a struggle subtly reflected in the album's title. But it's not like Eminem just woke up one day and decided to make an ode to depravity. More likely, this project was his way of finding his footing again while stuck in a limbo, no longer the angry young man, but not yet ready to fully embrace sobriety and maturity in his music.
When I first checked myself into rehab in 2005 is when I first wrote like the first verse and half of the second verse I wrote while I was sitting in detox. And at that point in time, I didn't know exactly where I wanted what I was going to do with my career. I didn't know where I wanted to be. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I felt like I'm in rehab right now and I'm a rapper. Like, I don't even know if this ain't cool. It's not cool for anybody, but these are the thoughts in my head. Like, you know what I mean? I'm a drug addict rapper. In hip hop, that's not acceptable.
It makes sense that he leaned on a persona or concept to channel his creativity. He just chose to rediscover that killer instinct more literally than most would have.
This particular album was therapy for me to just to deal with what I was going through with pretty much the addiction process, like that whole thing, like working it out, because every record was recorded as I got sober. Do you know what I mean? So working that process out, it was like through that entire process, I had to put these thoughts down on paper and learn to be more open and honest about, my drug use, and then I guess kind of poke fun at myself. If you can't learn to laugh at things, you know what I mean, and you start taking them too serious, then
The accents, they were probably his way of loosening up, helping him get back into the groove as a performer who can twist any words to rhyme.
I just started, for whatever reason, I just got into it and was just like, started on this weird serial killer vibe kind of thing.
Yeah.
And started wanting to talk crazy and started bending words more. And the only way you can bend them is with this accent, trying to use this one, like, if it wasn't with.
Sometimes the best way to fight your demons is through humor. And on Relapse, that's exactly what Eminem seems to be doing. Sure, it's dark humor, but you can sense that approaching it this way likely had a healing effect for him.
You can listen to it straight through, and I think there's a lot of funny moments, humorous things, but there's a lot of punchlines and jokes and things like that. But I think that once you listen to it once, it's kind of like, at least I felt like the joke's over. So it's not something that you can continuously really listen to over and over and over.
Although Relapse is largely a horrorcore project, tracks like Deja Vu and Beautiful provide crucial context, particularly regarding his absence and the then mysterious drug overdose. Unlike much of his later work, these moments of clarity are grounded by Dre's haunting production, especially on Deja Vu, which captures a looming sense of self-destruction. Given today's social climate, It's no surprise that Relapse's lyrical content turned off many listeners. If it were released now, the backlash would likely be intense, with critics quick to condemn its darker themes.
Oh, hell no. Man, I don't know, bro. What the hell y'all niggas be having me listening to, bro? Eminem must have been in a very dark place, bro. My man said, I remember the first time I demanded me somebody. I tied him with Christmas lights and pushed him into the tub and cut him in pieces. Then I got ready to drink his blood. Then something. He about to say some crazy joke. I already know it.
However, for those who appreciate horror in any form, whether through movies, books, or true crime documentaries, Relapse offers a refreshingly twisted escape. The album delivers genuinely chilling moments, like the second verse of Stay Wide Awake, which is as technically impressive as it is unsettling. There are also bizarre tracks like Insane that push the boundaries of weirdness, while Bagpipes from Baghdad showcases Eminem having a blast over one of Dre's most unique beats. While his first 3 albums are often hailed as his best, Relapse might just feature the strongest technical performance of his career at that point, and it highlights M's skill with cadence, flow, storytelling, and melody.
Relapse was the first album and first recordings that I had did, you know, where the lights came on.
Right.
And sober, so it was interesting. Like I was still trying to figure things out and get my feet wet again as far as just getting back out and doing things, but not having certain things to rely on, you know, to do it. But it's interesting. Fun time. I had fun making the record.
Indeed.
You know? Yeah.
However, all things considered, this is an album Eminem would never have made if he were at 100%. He's too much of a perfectionist for that. But that's where its appeal lies. It's a concept album with a disturbing concept, absurd accents, and some of the loosest, most easygoing music Shady has ever released. It's like watching an unfinished painting that gains its own unique value in its imperfect state. In other words, Relapse is a truly underrated masterpiece.